Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Peculiar outdoor encounters. Post your own stories or green text you have saved about strange happenings outdoors. I'll go first. Be me. Hiking a pretty tame trail around a lake in northern Missouri. Dirty hippie, so I'm going barefoot. About halfway through the trail, I'm starting to get into a thicker part that is clearly less traveled. At some point I start to detect a strange odor, not the usual pennies and rotting flesh, but it's more like some kind of body odor, if that makes sense. Smells like someone on a really gnarly diet hasn't showered in months. As I'm going along, the smell gets stronger and I start to notice that everything is oddly quiet. Oh, it's actually happening. I'm not about to become the dumb white guy at the start of a horror movie. The instant I turn around to go back the way I came, I hear a loud crack someplace off into the forest on my right, the lake now on my left. I start sprinting. After only like 50 feet I slip and bust my ass on a patch of unidentifiable slime on the dirt which was not there before. Regret not wearing shoes. Get back to starting location without stopping. Relatively uneventful, but WTF. The slime had the consistency of a slugged slime, the shit that is hard to get off without some vigorous scrubbing.
Friend and I are driving around at 3 a.m. on a road that runs parallel to an interstate, still pretty desolate. Out of the darkness we see a pure white wolf sitting on its haunches beside the road. It's as big as my friend's Ford Ranger. Both me and my friend just stare at it as we drive past. It watches us. After we pass, it continues to look at us for a moment before it gets up and slinks off into the brush. Friend and I are silent for several moments. Finally, I asked my friend, "Did you see that?"
Yeah, the giant wolf.
Neither of us mentioned it to each other or anyone else for a long time. What's really weird is that my wife told me that she saw something similar not long after we had gotten together. It was the first time I had thought about the encounter since it had happened, probably about 8 years.
I have a similar story. Posted this on an encrypted thread earlier this year, but might as well post it to /x/2. Friend and I are traveling south to Alabama to help a friend move. 9-hour drive, slept for a lot of it. It's already dark when I wake up. Our car is alone on the road, mostly trees and farmland on either side of us. Probably somewhere in Tennessee or lower Kentucky at the time. Friend is already tired, trying to focus on the road. I look off the side of the road. See left side of pick related crouched down beside the road. Stare at it as we get closer. It does a kind of awkward backwards crawl downhill from the road as we're about to pass it. Looks like it's climbing down a ladder, best way I can describe the way it moved. Friend doesn't comment, and when I ask him, he says he didn't see it. He claims that he had nearly dozed off several times and believed that for the night stretch of the drive a floating goldfish was leading us down the road. My shitty drawing really doesn't do what I saw justice. To describe it a bit more clearly. All white. Looked fleshy, but it could have just been the lighting at the time. Tall shoulder hump, almost like a bison or a bear. Slender yet muscular forelimbs, like a weightlifter had their arms stretched but not bulked up to match their new length. Digitigrade hind limbs, look much more appropriately sized for its body but still pretty thin. Might have had a tail, but I can't remember clearly. Can't remember head features, almost looked like a bald human looking straight down in head shape, but other than conical ears I can't remember any face details. Anons in the /and/thread mentioned stories of living giant ground sloths, also shown in pic related. White not quite the same, there are a lot of similarities to what I saw there.
On holiday in another country. Go to the mall with my brother. See a 40-something-year-old hippie lady walking towards me wearing one of those chemo bandanas that people wear when they have cancer. She stops and says,
"I've always wanted to meet you. Anon, you and your brother are so cute together."
She grabs my hand with both hands. Her hands were colder than any hand I've ever felt, but it felt really good. Just as she let go of me, a blast of what felt like pure light ran through my entire body. I look to my brother with confused expression. I turn around and she's gone. Either my life is like the Truman Show and a dying lady went off script, or I met an actual angel. I'm not religious or had anything weird like this ever happened since.
Not really that exciting of a story, but it'll at least bump the thread. Be me around 13 with friend. We used to walk on the train tracks to see how far we could go, start out in the morning usually so we have longer to be out. This is in the south so the train goes through lots of woods. Sometimes divert off the track into the woods or just keep going. This day we keep going. We started out later in the day. Made it a few miles and we come across one of those toy cars for kids they ride around in on the track. We decide to clear it off the track and throw it down in the ditch, maybe 10 feet or more off the side, would be very hard to get to. Keep walking, stop, take a break, eat, keep going. Go a few more miles when we see a guy way down the track, just standing there staring right at us. He is pretty far away but can tell he is wearing camouflage and has a long arm rifle or shotgun. WTF. We wave at him, he just stares at us. He then turns into the woods and walks away. Being stupid kids, we decide to keep going, probably just someone looking for a deer. Go another mile or so and decide to turn around because the sun is going down and we are tired. As we start heading back, getting that feeling of being watched. Every once in a while hear the faint noise of a twig snapping. Get to where we found the kid car. Someone placed it on the tracks just as it was. Time to book it. We start jogging back home, still have miles to go, now it's almost dark, can't see the sun anymore. Can hear someone is following as they are moving faster and they are more careless. Decide to cut through the woods and get to a road we know is there. Hear someone running behind us. We get to the road and go into a restaurant and eat some chicken tendies and call mommy to come get us. Wonder what could have happened if that dude had caught up with us. I mean, if he wanted to get us, he could have just waited for us to pass by him, but I wonder if he was waiting for the sun to go down. Pick related.
I'm homeless and living in a tent. Here are some of my experiences with spooks. The place I have my tent is at an old abandoned bungalow which is in Norwood, sort of from circa the 60s, I think. The whole house from the inside is trashed. It's like a tornado happened inside. The windows are boarded from the outside, yet there's one window not boarded up. I've been using the house as my garbage dump. The door is also not paneled up, which to me is weird. I discovered this place as a kid and my friends, and I would skip school to go there. I've been living here in the garden with my tent pitched for a few months now. It's hard to remember exactly when, as time has sort of become a mush for me, but there have been a few spooky occurrences more than once. Be reading my book with my headlight and the 2 pairs of lights. It's late out, I wanted to stay up to get a good view of the stars, and my sleep schedule is screwed up anyway, so doesn't matter. Stop reading and can't focus, just keep thinking self-ending thoughts and other negative and self-beating thoughts, and felt in despair for the first time since being homeless. This goes on for a while until I decide to try to sleep. Keep hearing leaves and twigs but tell myself it's animals. All of a sudden it's dead silent and I feel sick and scared. Can hear something talking but can't make the words. See a hand appear on the tent of my wall. Oh shit, the hell, reach for the box cutter I have. More and more hands start to appear and slap the tent. Black long-fingered hands are slapping my tent from all around me. Bow down and just hold my head and close my eyes and pray. I didn't even notice it stopped and was crying still for a while after it happened. Was this a witch? Lack of food? Dehydration? I dunno what it was, but felt like Blair Witch shit.
That's good you have the rosary, Christ's blessings upon you. The only in a woods creepy story I have is a memory from when I was young. Maybe around 10 or 11 years old and just recently moved to a new town. Decided to explore the woods around my house. Follow an old ATV track into the woods. Keep following it deeper and deeper until it starts getting dark. Suddenly I come across this old abandoned decrepit Victorian age house with a fire pit in the middle of this clearing in the middle of the woods. There's no roads nearby, no cars, and it looks like this place was straight out of the 1800s. Get a really ominous feeling, and because it's getting late I decide to leave. Come back the next day carefully retracing my steps and it's no longer there. Still can't figure it out to this day.
The hands were from the host. They have a lot of different names according to what culture you are reading about them from. Sluag, Ekik. But overall they are basically a large grouping of spirits of drunks, drug addicts, and other various screwed up people that died miserable and full of negative emotion, and then just sort of wander as a pack. When they fly around they look like a huge swarm of bats or crows, lots and lots of dark things. Giving a good look at them, they look like something in between Gollum and a really messed up meth addict, tiny, thin, bony, and sickly looking, with lots of unkempt black hair and sometimes feathers, shredded pieces of old clothing, etc. They largely circle around their old haunts from when they were alive and scare the shit out of people or screw with people a lot. Usually around parks, shitty sides of town, places where people might fall over and die on the streets or off the road. They also look for others like them, heroin addicts that might die soon and other indigents that may join them. They likely thought you could be a part of their group, while others probably also lived in that same spot at some point in the past. Also, your tent was likely pointing west. Do not let the zipper opening part point west.
Some places have demons, spirits that have been conjured to protect the place. Might have pissed something off by throwing garbage in there. I pissed off a demon in an abandoned house back in homeless teenage years by throwing a sucker through a window. Shit was screwed for a few months. One night I camped next to that property in my buddy's backyard and got attacked in the sleeping bag. The demon pulled the sleeping bag over my head and slammed me on the ground repeatedly until I called out to Jesus. Not trying to scare you, but maybe move on or try to appease it, or go balls to the wall and try to exorcise the house.
Most laws of predators ascribe that they go after the weakest members of the herd. This being true, I'd imagine being isolated and alone makes you an easier target for the paranormal who likes to prey on humans. Back during the pandemic, my friend got sick and decided to quarantine in his car. Even during that short stint of time, he had a lot of weird events. One was that when he was sleeping, he awoke to the sound of someone trying to unlock his door, and he noticed a shadow was blocking the street light from outside. He shot up and grabbed his knife, but nobody was there. Stay safe.
I'm Irish, so I've heard a few banshees, and surprise checked rip.ie Ireland obituaries, and people died when I heard it the next day. Maybe unrelated cause people die all the time, but the time I encountered aliens. Intent, reading, weird noise and lights fly by. I guess that's aliens, nothing that night. The time I encountered a demon, spirit or whatever, this was the most recent one. Still in a tent, reading as usual. I could hear footsteps, but it is just an animal, I tell myself. Tent was being circled. Guy lines or my traps for people were not triggered, so it's probably just a kitty. It's cold, so I had both the doors zipped. The outer door is being tugged at. I think it's a kitty, so I flash my torch and make a feint to spook it. 2 minutes later it happens again. Rinse and repeat. Zip. The outer door was being opened slowly. Not a human as I would have heard them. Part drops through my stomach is in my rectum at this stage. Watch with cold sweats and dizziness as whatever it was slowly unzipped one side of my outer door. Be too scared to go back out and zip it closed. Now sleep with a lock on the loops of both zips on the inner tent in case it returns. I don't want a stranger walking in, so I sleep with a lock and a rosary in case that thing comes back.
Exploring old artillery foundry with friends. Place built early 1800s, now a federal park. Pretty much just old bombed out brick shells in the woods with some paths running through them. Walking down a path that borders a marsh after messing around in one of the old furnaces. One friend starts walking ahead. Me and 3 others like 15 feet behind. See old lady sitting on a bench on path. Lady has messy gray hair, and if I remember right, tattered clothes. Not like rags, but definitely not new and probably had a hole or two. Figure it's odd, but could just be an old woman enjoying nature. Lady instead speed walks right behind lead friend. Like 1 or 2 inches away from him, directly behind. Matches his pace, friend doesn't seem to notice, or at least doesn't acknowledge. I kinda turn to the 2 guys who are lagging behind with me with a WTF look. Decide that this is too weird and run up to friend and call his name. Neither he nor lady acknowledge me until I get like 3 feet away. Lady gives slight turn and looks at me. Kinda gives me a look like, oops, you caught me. I get a really creepy feeling. Lady immediately makes a sharp 30-degree turn and just walks into woods. Despite looking around, 70 has no problem speed walking over a steep hill and disappears over the top. No real trail that way, just steep hills that separate the foundry ruins from the trails and parking lot. Friend asks me what was up, apparently didn't even notice the woman. Other friends say it was weird but don't pay it too much mind. I still think of the chill I got down my spine when she looked at me. It wasn't malicious or necessarily spooky. Story happened around 6 years at this point. Pretty sure I am the only one of those friends that remembers. The lady didn't say a word throughout the entire encounter and walked in a way that seemed odd to me. From the time I saw her to a few hours after, I got the same kind of static feeling that I get whenever a magic spell actually works. Hey guys and gals, Tent Man here. So I was reading the thread, which is archived now. To answer the hand anon, you gave me chills when I read your reply, as I have been an addict and was filled with hate due to hardships. Saying they look for similar people who are close to dying is what gave me the chills. Then I figure out if my door is facing west or not, and if it is, should I face it north or what? To the anon who said they feed off negative energy, I thought this too, so I shouted that go ahead and get me, that Christ is protecting me and I will fight any demon that come. Doing this did make me feel better and the spooks went away. That one anon who said he heard similar stories from camping gave me a scare when he said I'm lucky they didn't rip through the tent key. I'm gonna roll over and be ready to see a face in the wall thanks to you. To the anon who said try to appease it, how can I make spooks happy? I leave out food for the animals in case I disturb them on their hunt, so I feel like this is worth a good boy point or two. Oh yeah, I also talk to the trees, so I'll start talking to the spirits too. To the homeless anon, I feel your pain, brother, stay strong. Tents do be comfy, but I'll need to find somewhere more warm for winter sadly. Ireland has safety nets and free houses, yes, but most have been given to Ukrainian and others, as well as a bunch of land being bought up by foreign investors, so yeah. Yes, homelessness is freeing in a way. I'm free to do what I want and I have no responsibilities. I do feel liberated, and to agree with that one anon, it is addicting. That guy was right, if you're lonely just go into town and chit-chat. Plenty of old people appreciate being able to talk to someone. The saddest one was one old guy who said I reminded him of his son who passed. I feel for him. The only downside to homelessness is at the start no water or electricity, but you adjust soon when you find where there's water refilling station or a socket to charge your stuff.
Do you need any help for food or things? I don't have much myself, but would be happy to send you a few dollars if it could help perk up the day. Glad you are making the most of the experience either way. And appreciating tree friends. Like some others have said, maybe move somewhere else if you can, or figure out some ways to cleanse. Talk to the spirits there so you don't get harassed. If they are not a regular occurrence, the negative thoughts all of a sudden were likely linked to the entity if it wasn't nice. There is a chance it could have just been a bunch of kids, punks trying to be prankster assholes too. If you are deciding to stay there, maybe just talk out loud to it. I don't know, that's what I do. We had a spirit friend in our old house called Dead Cousin Ted, and he had a creepy-ass handmade avatar covered in Christmas lights that my husband made in the corner. Well, this Christmas when I was living there alone, after he passed, I moved it so he could be in the open room to meet our other friends. That day he cut the electrics, power to my car engine while on the highway, and was flicking the kettle button on and off while I slept. Figured he's probably just trying to talk to me, get my attention, so I apologized and moved him back into the corner. He hasn't done anything else since.
Once you cut the umbilical cord that we call power lines, you do feel bored. At the start it was balls rough, but then I would just sit and watch and listen to the birds sing and fly around. I would sit and admire the trees for their green beauty and their big, strong, thick trunk. I would walk barefoot and feel the soil on my soles and rub my hands on the trunk and feel the bark. It's almost as if they tell you a message from their trunk. How many years did it take them to get this big, I always wonder. I have newfound love and appreciation for Mother Nature. To that one anon who said live in the house, it's full of black mold, bug nests, and the roof is collapsing. Oh, and breathing in the mold dust and rat shit would be hazardous. Have thought a lot about moving inside, but I like to view from inside the tent with the door down. It's a nice bit of green and a nice bit of blue sky during the day. One thing I've realized is that I may not have money nor food nor a home, but nobody can ever take my sky away from me. I don't think I could adjust to normal life working in a factory or an office not getting my sunlight. In this regard, I truly am free. Dear CH, I truly mean this. Thank you for your generosity, but I'll turn it down. Your kind and calming words were worth more to me than any money. I'll speak to the spirit from now on, but would love to hear more advice from you on how to make friends with it if it isn't an evil spirit. But if it is an evil one, what do? How can I tell if it's some dead kid pranksters or some fourth-dimensional entity hungry for Irish boy?
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.